Yeah, so today we are going to focus a little bit more on classroom engagement. So we've been doing a lot of tech in the and a few teaching strategies in the past few webinars. Today we're going to have a little bit of tech and a little bit of classroom engagement as well. So there were a lot of requests in the past also. The first ever webinar that we did was on energizers, and teachers really loved it, and a lot of them have been coming back and asking us for primary and elementary uh, engagement also. So we thought we'll put up a few energizers that you can use in your classes. And yes, apart from that, we also will be talking about Nearpod, which is again a very great platform for interactive learning. It's somewhat similar to, it's a combination of a lot of other tools like Flipgrid, VideoAsk, Kahoot also, and Padlet also. So it has all the features of all these different platforms put together. So it's a great platform to explore a lot of features that are in store for you to know about. So yes, let's start off with what we have in here for today. Again, like we usually do, we recommend you to run a preliminary check. I'm sure most of your students are used to the online learning, and even you are used to the entire process as of now. But it's always good to check the audio, video, if the chat is functioning, and get the students to raise their digital hand whenever they have to ask or respond to a certain question. And it's always good to have a feedback that is run at the end of the call, which will help you get an understanding of how the entire session has gone for the child and for you. So yes, and check-in is something that we've been regularly doing on the webinar, something that we also strongly recommend you to do in your own classes. So check-in is a very nice way to break the ice, to kind of get all the kids onto the conversation, some way for you to introduce the topic for the day also. So yes, what we have for today is also a way of introducing what we're going to talk about today. Is what is the one favorite tech tool that you have loved using for your online teaching classes, and why do you think it is that way? Mention one successful moment or instance from your online teaching. So yes, you can type it out on the chat box, or you can just shout it out loud. I know that Vishaka ma'am has been using Padlet a lot, and it looks like she likes using it with her children as well. Um, yes. So for the beginning, okay. Miss Sati, okay, no problem if you haven't registered on Nearpod or you haven't signed up on Nearpod. We just thought it would be great for you to understand this. Okay. Ms. Jayashree says that she has used the whiteboard feature on Zoom or MS Teams. Very nice. Yes, Ms. Madhu has been using Kahoot for her classes, and Ms. Usha has been using Padlet and Mentimeter. Wow, very nice. Mentimeter, I remember we used it in our earlier webinars where we spoke about taking polls or getting the kids to quickly answer for certain questions. Ms. Manjula says that she's been using Kahoot. Children joined answering, and yes, even as a revision for the previous classes. Wow, it's nice to hear that Venkata Smita ma'am has also used Kahoot and Video Ask. Very nice. Okay. All right. Yes, do keep those responses coming in. We really like the way that every one of us has actually adapted to the new way of learning and teaching. And I must say, it's been quite a interesting way of teaching for us also. Exploring all these different tech tools. I'm sure when I'm in a physical classroom, a lot of these tools wouldn't, even though they are great, loaded with a lot of features, I wouldn't be able to use them effectively in a physical classroom. So it's a great way to use all these features on the online platform, a great way to explore the different possibilities that we have, right? So yes, that's about it. What we have for today is going to be about energizers, like we said. Before that, just introducing ourselves if you haven't been to one of our webinars or family quizzes before. We are a company called Walnut Knowledge Solutions who run a flagship program called the Q Shala. And we aim at piquing the curiosity, the innate curiosity that is there within children, to help them achieve the 21st century skills, to help them get the 21st century skills. And until now, we've been able to pique the curiosity of about 80,000 plus children around us. And we partnered with 80 plus schools to do this. We've also designed and delivered around 500 plus school curiosity events, which might be quizzes or Q Shala engagements, anything that is related to curiosity and 21st century skills. And yes, we've also engaged over 2,000 plus parents and students online through our family quizzes, through our Q Shala online programs. Now the number is way up high at 9,000. So yes, that's the kind of impact that we want to make as well. And since we say that we are curious, we want to use the curiosity or build the curiosity among kids, we also went on to be a lot more curious, and we've conducted a quiz in Antarctica. We've been the first company and the only company until now which has conducted a quiz in a place called like Antarctica. So yes, we hold a Limca Book of Records for the same. And after that, we were like, there's Antarctica we've done, there's other places that we've done quizzes at. So let's just go and do quizzes at every other continent in the world right now. And that's when we got our second Limca Book of Records, which is we've conducted a quiz at all the 7 continents in the world right now. So yes, that's something that we're proud of, and that's something that that's somewhere that our curiosity has taken us. So that being aside, why should you choose Q Shala, or what do you think Q Shala has to offer? And all that we can say is we have Q Shala online, where we use a lot of questions, stories, activities, and discussions to make a child. It can be your student, it can be your son, daughter, niece, nephew, anybody. We help them build these 21st century skills, make them curious and confident learners. And yes, if you want a glimpse of, if you have never been to one of our family quizzes, you should surely sign up for an exclusive family quiz where all your students, your families as teachers, you can take part in the online family quiz that we are offering for your schools exclusively. To sign up for our family quiz, you can access this link that is appearing on the screen here. I will also share the link on the chat box. All right, so yes, so through our family quiz, like I said, we'd done over 8,500, we've had around 8,500 plus families who've actively engaged with us from not only from India, but from Japan, UAE, Norway, and the US. All right, so coming to what we have for today, energizers. What do you understand by energizers, or how do you think energizers help? Any responses from any of you here? Just unmute yourself and shout out and tell me how energizers actually help us.
To boost our energy.
Yes,
to start the class.
Yes, for sure. Yes, to start a class, you always need a lot of energy. Might be just had a heavy lunch and you're like, oh God, I don't want to do this. But you get physically active through energizers. Very nice. Thanks a lot for that, Sriparna ma'am.
It gets the children hooked on.
It gets the children hooked on. Yeah.
They look forward to such things, and then they are interested in the lessons.
Right, very nice. Yes, Miss Sati and Miss Usha Kamath ma'am also tell that it's a warm-up activity. Like, yes, you need energizers to start off, kickstart, basically give a kickstart to the session. And also, like Vishaka ma'am said, it helps your kids to be much more hooked on to the class. They always look forward
Encourage,
to something. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
they also encourage students to involve in students' involvement and interaction.
Yes, that is right. So they make it a much more interactive process. They help the kids also be active participants in the entire class. Very nice. Thanks a lot for that, Manjula ma'am. Hemilata ma'am says that it helps kids to overcome a boring topic and encourages interaction. Yes, that is exactly right. And that is what we also think about energizers. So yes, it helps keep the energy levels up of the kids. And it makes your classes much more engaging and fun because kids like to do things like these, and it's always good for them to good to have a balance of what kids want and what we want from the class as well, right? So yes, it makes your classes much more challenging, engaging, and fun. It's always a very good brain break. These energizers, they help in improving the focus. Like Vishaka ma'am said, it keeps them hooked on. So yes, it improves the focus of the child, and it helps them clear off their minds from a very stressful topic that they've been learning about, or a very boring topic that they've been learning about. It helps in increasing the memory also. So we'll be talking about a few energizers which actually help the kids to remember and recall better. So yes, it helps in increasing, makes their memory also better, and obviously it improves their attention span, right? So that is how energizers help. And when is the best time to use energizers as such? Quick 2 or 3 responses, and then we'll look at what we do here as well.
To start the class at the beginning.
At the beginning of the class, all right. Okay, at the beginning of the class. So basically any class that comes after lunch, that happens to me always after lunch, that too when there is really good food at home. We always kind of feel tired, or we kind of feel lazy, or we just um, don't want to do anything after lunch. So having an energizer, getting them physically active after lunch is something that's kind of the best time. The last hour of the day. So the kids might be drained out during the entire day, and they would be losing interest as the day is coming to an end. So the last hour of the day is when you can get them all active using these energizers, when there has been no interaction for a long time. So what can happen is, when we as teachers are engrossed in a particular topic and we keep going on and on and on, explaining a certain process to them, which might take a long time for us to talk about. But what happens at that time is the interaction from the other end. So there is no two-way communication happening there, because of which the kids might get disengaged. So bringing them back is very essential. So whenever there has been no interaction for a very long time, we try to use energizers. When the content is irrelevant, so kids don't really know, why am I learning about Akbar, who was some emperor at some point of time in his life? What am I going to do knowing about Taj Mahal, or who Mumtaz was, or things like that? So when content is very irrelevant for the kids, might be we can use energizers to make the content more relatable, or just give them a break from that content to them itself. So when content is very relevant, or it's quite boring for them to learn about, and when the kids are tired, obviously. So yes, let's start off with some energizers that we have for today. Here is what we're going to do. And I would like all of you to have your cameras on for this. This is going to be a very interactive session that we're going to do. So I'd like you all to have your cameras on, so I know what's happening there. And it's going to involve a little bit of physical activity also. So yes, let's see how many of you are up for this. Okay. So yes, the first one, it's called Yes, No, Stand Up. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a very simple question, and the answer to that could be either yes or no. Only these two answers are going to be for those questions that I'm asking. And yeah, it's very simple. If your answer is yes, you stand up. If your answer is no, you sit down. That's about it. Can you give me a thumbs up if you understood how we're going to do this? Okay, Miss Manjula is giving me a thumbs up. I don't see any other cameras. Oh, right. Nice. Miss Madhu has, okay, Miss Leena is there, Mukta is there, Mukta is there. Okay, so yes, students can take turn asking questions to the rest of the team. So right now, I'm going to ask the questions and you either stand up or sit down. So yes, let's get ready for this. So this is what our questions are going to look like. The first question, plants can move, stand up or sit down. Okay. All right. Nobody is moving. So, okay. All right. No problem. Yes, the next one, giraffes have long necks. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's move to the next one then. Do you like chocolate? Okay, Miss Manjula is up there. Okay. Wow, a lot of chocolate lovers. Okay, nice. Um, the next one, 2 multiplied by 5 is 15. All right. Okay. The next one, a circle is round. Okay. All right. Our eyes can hear. Okay. All right. And do you exercise every day? Okay, that's nice. Okay. All right. So yes, this is something that you can do in your classes also. A very quick activity which will get the kids moving, and a very quick recap also for you to understand how much the kids have learned, or just to understand what they've been learning in the last few days also. So again, this can be used for elementary classrooms. I'm sure the kids would be jumping up and down to get their answers right. So yes, a very simple activity like yes, no, stand up. That's what we had here.
Alternative for online, when the children are, we're not able to see the children. Maybe you, for yes, you could use a thumbs up sign.
Right. Yes. So we wanted to basically make it more physical, and that's why we used stand up and sit down. But yes, for online, yes, we can do that as well. All right. So yes, the next thing that we're going to look at is what's in the box. This is kind of a variation of the yes, no, stand up itself. But what we basically do in this activity is we're going to put random objects one by one in a box. So right now I don't have a box, so I have a bag like this inside which I've kept something. I put something, right? And what you are going to do is you're going to take turns and ask me questions for which I can tell only yes or no as the answer, right? So you are going to ask questions which will lead me to which will lead you to the to identifying the item itself, right? So you are going to ask me some questions. I'm going to reply with a yes or a no, and until we're going to keep doing this until you find out what this object is, right? So I have something in my bag already. Abhilasha, do you want to start off asking some questions?
Sure. Uh, so the object that's there inside your bag, is it soft?
It's not really, no, no, sorry. No.
Is it made of wood?
No.
Okay, then metal.
Yes.
Okay, so it's metallic, and can I use it to drink water?
No. No.
Is it earrings?
No.
Is it something to do with technology?
Yes.
And is it recent? Do we still use it?
No, no,
Okay, I'm just going to guess. Is it something like a floppy disk?
no,
Am I close?
yes.
Okay. Is it a CD?
Yes, that's right. So yes, it is a CD, something that we don't use right now, but something that was really, very, very adored in the past. So yes, these are some things that you can do in class. What's in a box is a very, very, fun way of getting them to identify things. And as you could see, it is very good to find out the characteristics of a certain object, right? So if you're teaching science, or if you're teaching social, or if you're teaching shapes to them in math or anything like that, you can get them to identify the attributes, the characteristics of a certain object by getting them to do this energizer, to get them to do this game. So yes, that was what's in the box. Put some random objects in a box. You can also ask the kids to take turns in putting something in, by asking them to put something in their boxes and getting the others to guess. So yes, all you have to remember is the questions that are being asked should always get a reply in yes or no format. And you keep doing this until your students guess the answer. And so we move on here. This is something called a blind artist. And for this, I'd like all of you to have a pen and a sheet of paper in front of you. Can you give me a thumbs up if you have something like that with you? If not, you could just run around and get a paper and a pen. All right, Ms. Vishakha, Deepa, Venkata, Smita, Usha ma'am, Mukta ma'am, Sandhya ma'am, thank you. Waiting for a few more thumbs up. Yes, Ms. Leena has it. Ms. Hemlata has it. All right, Ms. Jayashri has it as well. Okay, so yes, what I'm going to do in the next slide is I'm going to run a few instructions for you. So keep your pencils or pen and the paper ready. Follow the instructions that you're hearing to, and then we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So this is called the blind artist. You're going to draw something using the instructions that are given here. Here it goes. Ready?
Draw a circle on the sheet of paper. Now, draw a triangle on top of the circle with the base of the triangle touching the circle. Now, under the circle, draw a square. On either side of the square, draw a triangle, draw a right angle triangle with the base touching the squares. Under the square, draw two rectangles length vertically.
Shilpa, if you can tell what to be done actually.
Draw a
Can you hear the video that I'm
Draw
audio
a
that
circle.
I'm playing, ma'am?
No, that is why.
Okay. Abhilasha, can you hear the audio?
Yes, it's audible, Shilpa.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. I can also hear the audio.
Okay,
cannot.
I'm just going to, I'm going to share the screen one more time. Might be there was some glitch. Can you tell me if you can hear it now? So I'm going to play a set of instructions on the piece of paper with the pencil or a pen that you have. You're going to follow the instructions and do whatever is being said, right? So yes, I'm going to play it again.
Draw a circle on the sheet of paper. Now,
I can hear
draw
now.
a triangle on top of the circle with the base of the triangle touching the circle. Now, under the circle, draw a square. On either side of the square, draw a triangle, draw a right angle triangle with the base touching the squares. Under the square, draw two rectangles length vertically. Now with the bottom left corner of the left rectangle, draw a square whose corner touches the rectangle. Now draw another square that touches the bottom right corner of the second triangle.
I have missed the middle part, ma'am.
Okay. Do you want me to play it one more time?
Yeah,
All right. Just one more time. And here it goes.
last two.
Draw a
Second
circle
side.
on the sheet of paper. Now draw a triangle on top of the circle with the base of the triangle touching the circle. Now under the circle, draw a square. On either side of the square, draw a triangle, draw a right angle triangle with the base touching the squares. Under the square, draw two rectangles vertically. Now with the bottom left corner of the left rectangle, draw a square whose corner touches the rectangle. Now draw another square that touches the bottom right corner of the second triangle.
Okay. I hope everyone is done with following the instructions and drawing as you were told. Could you might be turn on your cameras and show us what you have done? All right. Thanks a lot, Ms. Deepa. What do you think it is? What do you think you were all drawing?
I felt it is
A man.
You felt it was a man. Okay, a lot of you have actually.
Elephant.
An elephant, very nice. Okay, very nice, Ms. Vishaka. That's really nice to see. Oh, very nice. I see a lot of you have actually kind of got the entire thing right. So yes, it was a man that we were drawing with a hat that he's wearing on top. So yes, if we have time at the end, I'm going to give you a few images that you can might be get the other people to draw. But for now, in the interest of time, let's move on ahead. So again, this is an activity that is that again gets your kids to concentrate, to focus a lot more. But what also it does is many a times all the instructions are not followed at the in the same pace by all the kids, right? So everybody might get a different image. The same image cannot be appearing on all the papers. And yeah, and it might not match with the original image also. And also, did you ask any questions when the instructions were being read out? Did you actually, I know that one of you told that you couldn't hear what was there. But what would have happened if you had asked a lot more questions to me? If you'd asked me to stop, like one of you told that you couldn't get the last bit right and you kind of wanted to hear the whole thing again. So what happens? So this tells us about the importance of a two-way communication also with the kids, right? So make sure that whenever you're giving instructions to your children, you understand that they are able to analyze or they're able to, you know, absorb all the information that you're giving and make sense out of it, and also allow two-way conversations to happen. And this basically can improve how they do their things also. Right, so that was about blind artist. Do try it out in your classes to get the, yeah, to get them to you know, concentrate and focus better on whatever, and also to improve communication among members in the classroom. So yes, the next thing that we have, it's called red nose pink toe. So again, an elementary classroom activity that you can do, which your kids will absolutely love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out a color and a body part. You're supposed to find an object in the told color and you're going to touch it with a specific body parts that I had mentioned, right? And so it goes on as long as we identify all the colors and all the body parts that I have. Let's see how many we can get right. Okay, so again, this involves a little bit of a physical activity. Try to find as many objects, but try to get up and walk across the room also. So yes, let's start off with what is there in the name itself, red nose. Let's find red, some object made, some object red in color. Pick it up and touch it to your nose. I'd prefer if it was on camera. Very nice. Mr. Shaka already has something. Shri Parnavam already has something. I'm sure all you teachers must have a red pen handy with you. I see that. Yes. Very nice. Should have chosen another color. Okay, let's do blue finger. Blue thumb might be. Yeah, blue thumb. Blue thumb.
That's a blue thumb.
Yeah. All right. Okay, very nice. All right. Okay, the next one, yellow ear. Yellow ear. It makes sense for me also to do it. So yellow ear. Okay, nice. All right. The last one might be a blue chin. Blue chin. Okay. Okay. Great. So yes, you basically understood how this actually works. So yes, it helps children, younger children, to quickly understand colors and to also identify different body parts that you're trying to teach them, and also a fun way for them to get physically active, get them moving around rather than sitting in front of the screen while they are trying to learn something. So yes, red nose, pink toe, a very interesting activity for primary school children. And I hope most of your kids get a lot of these right. This is another very interesting activity. Again, you can let your imagination go wild, but this is something that we really love for younger kids to do, elementary classrooms to do. Imagine two birds, right? And one is called Pur and the other is called Pukut. Okay. When I say Pur, you're going to join your fingers together like this, and you're going to flap your flap your shoulders like you are flying, right? So when I say Pur, you're going to do this, and when I say Pukut, you stay wherever you are, whatever position you are in, and you will be disqualified if you move when I say Pukut. So that's about it. That's a very easy thing for all of us to do. So yes, let's try doing it as fast as we can. All right. So Pur. Okay. Pukut. Pur. Pukut. Pukut. Pur. Okay. All right. So yes, again, you can choose your own activities based on what your kids would love to do. This is again a very interesting way to teach kids how birds fly, and you can teach a lot of science stuff also to them with these activities. So yes, let your imagination go wild, but this is again something that you can try out in your classrooms. So yes, those were some energizers. We will be talking about a few more after after talking a little bit about Neopod as well. Before that, like I mentioned about our family quiz, we do family quizzes every Sunday for juniors and for sub-junior classrooms, for sub-junior kids. So you can always go and look at how our family quizzes are, and you can get access. And we have a lot of fundas, a lot of interesting topics, interesting trivia that we talk about during our family quizzes. And you can get access to all these different archives of family quiz that we have, different questions that we've dealt with until now, for a price of 249 rupees now. And yes, we'll be sharing the details on the chat box in a while. So yes, that is what you can do, and you can also help us reach out to more families through by sharing our family quiz posters. Every evening, you get an interesting question on the WhatsApp group and some information about the family quiz also. So yes, go ahead and share details about our family quiz with friends and family. Write a testimonial for us if you have already attended one of our family quizzes. And yes, you get an opportunity to get our archive for free as well. Yeah, so I'll let Abhilasha take this forward.
Shilpa. So we'll be learning a little more about Nearpod, and like Shilpa introduced in the beginning of the webinar, we've used a lot of tech tools like Video Ask and Padlet, and we're really glad that teachers are actually using it in their classes. So another very handy tool or tech platform is Nearpod. So when we actually explore it, you'll see it's an amalgamation of everything that we've learned in the past. So it just combines many, many features. So before I tell you more about it, let's just watch a video on it, and then we will take a tour of what it looks like on the website. So we can just watch the video on what Nearpod is.
Introducing Nearpod. With Nearpod, you can make every lesson interactive. Launch lessons your students can't wait to join with collaborative, engaging activities like virtual reality, simulations, and gamified quizzes. As the teacher, you'll always know where your students are with Nearpod's formative assessments, including polls, open-ended questions, draw-its, and more. Get started with what you already have. Upload any of your favorite resources, PowerPoints, Google Slides, and videos, including directly from YouTube. Then, add in media and formative assessment in a few clicks. And now you can add questions directly into videos to make them interactive. Get started even faster with our library of pre-made lessons and videos, built in partnership with some of your favorite brands. You can use them as is or customize to meet the unique needs of your students. Once you're ready to launch your lesson, choose from 3 teaching modes. In live participation mode, you control the pace and students participate on their devices, either in person or remotely with web conferencing. In student-paced mode, students move through and participate on their own, whether they're working from home or in class working in centers, stations, or groups. With front-of-class mode, you can use Nearpod without student devices and facilitate collaborative discussions. Imagine what you can do with Nearpod. Your students will love lessons that combine engaging media with collaborative ways for them to show off how much they've learned. You'll love unlocking student understanding in real time and having reports to inform the next day's instruction. You'll wonder how you taught without it. Learn more and get started for free at nearpod.com.
So there's a lot to be explored on nearpod.com, but it basically helps to make videos and lessons a lot more interactive. So moving on to the next bit. So before we see
Introducing.
what Nearpod is, I'm just going to give you a quick run through of what exactly is in Nearpod. So there are 2 options. One is it's a resource hub. So they have a Nearpod library where it can be used to teach lessons that have already been uploaded to it for all grades from 1st to 10th, and for all subjects like English, Math, Science, Social Studies, etc. When we actually see the interface and understand. The other one is video. So there are a lot of interactive videos similar to Flipgrid, but the only difference is it has prompts in between that allows children to answer. The other aspect of Nearpod which we will be exploring is creating a lesson using Nearpod. So there is a specific Nearpod lesson where you can Nearpodize the lesson, or basically convert an already existing presentation into a more interactive format. We can even add videos to it, or we can make the videos more interactive, or we can just create it with Google Slides. So before we proceed to using Nearpod, would request everyone to sign up for Nearpod. Shilpa has shared the link in the chat. So just guiding you through the sign up. So would request everyone to click on that link. We can just move on to the next slide. Right, so just giving you a brief of signing up on your board. This is what you will first see in your step 1 when you sign up for it. And you click in the login option on the top right corner, click on the login option there, and you have to sign up as a teacher. And once you sign up, you will see the Nearpod homepage. If we can just take 3 minutes or 5 minutes to at max set this up, would request all of you to just give me a thumbs up once you signed up for Nearpod and you are on the homepage. All right, okay. I see Vishaka ma'am and Deepa ma'am are done.
Ms. Jayashree is also done.
So for the ones who signed up, you may want to get a little more used to what the platform looks like. So feel free to like actually explore it. With tools, the more we practice, the better we get. So you can explore the options that I mentioned. There's the library option, there's the create option. So you can just get started with a hands-on for it. You take another 2 minutes for the others. Give a thumbs up once you've signed up and once you've reached the Nearpod page. All right. Hoping, yes, thank you, Shivani ma'am. Hoping the others have also signed up for it. Please sign up as a teacher. The reason is it gives you a lot of access to teacher resources, FAQs, blogs, etc., which you can use at any point. Yes, I think Leena ma'am, you raised your hand. Do you have a doubt, ma'am? Okay.
No, nothing.
Okay, all right. All right, great. So I'll start sharing my screen now. Hoping that everyone has signed up and has reached the Nearpod homepage. All right, so I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Hoping everyone has signed up for Nearpod from the teacher point of view. So if you can see a screen similar to what you are seeing right now, you can give me a thumbs up, because this is what I meant by the page, the home page of Nearpod. This is what it looks like. Great, thank you so much, Deepa ma'am. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, Jashi ma'am. So we'll get started with what Nearpod is. So like I told you, we're going to be exploring 2 aspects of it. One is the library aspect, the other is the create aspect. So let's take a look at the Nearpod library aspect first. So there, it gives you 2 options. You can search for lessons and you can search for videos. Let's just take an example of lessons here. Suppose I want to teach elementary students a lesson in social studies, and say I'm teaching that to 2nd standard students. So there are already preloaded resources here that are there. You can choose from any one of these, or you can actually just key in any word out here, and so let's suppose US history, something that you want to look up for specifically. There are a lot of lessons that are already uploaded on.
Where did you go for that?
For the lessons, to access the lessons. So I'll just repeat that again. So this was the home page. This is where I was. I first went to Nearpod library. So I searched for lessons. Suppose I want to teach, let's say I want to teach science to fourth graders. So I picked fourth standard because there are all the grades that are there here. And suppose I want to teach them about photosynthesis. So this is the search bar that I used to look up resources on this, or let's say photos, suppose like black holes, the first photograph. So this gives you an option of already accessing what is there in their Nearpod library, right? So that was one aspect of it. Another one is that of videos, right? So suppose I want to show some very interesting videos that are there, and let's say I want to teach science, and I want to teach science to fifth graders. So I'm going to click on any one of these, and there are very interesting videos that are already there. So it's not about always creating, it's about also using of what's there, like very interesting topics that children will enjoy. So we are going to actually try one. This is where you are going to put on your student hats and experience what watching an interactive video is going to be like, while I will share it as a teacher, right? So let's take an example of this one, which is why the sky is blue. I think it's one of the very elementary questions that children ask, right? So from teacher side, it also tells you the activities, right? The interactive activities that are there. So throughout the course of the video, there are two multiple choice questions. There are two open-ended questions, right? So would request the link to be shared. So I'm going to go in the teach mode. Again, if you've noticed, teachers, we've previously done synchronous, asynchronous teaching. So synchronous teaching, like we're doing a live session right now. So I'm going to pick the live participation option out here, right? So when I pick the live participation option, very similar to Kahoot, it generates a pin. So to be able to access this, I request the link to be shared in chat box. So along with the website, which is join.nearpod.com. Right, so Shilpa has shared the link and the code. So once you click on the link, it will lead you to a new page where you are supposed to enter the code. Okay, so waiting for everyone to enter the code there. Please let us know if you're having any difficulty getting there. So go to the website join.nearpod.com, enter the code. Yes, I already see people have started joining in. Yes, Shivani ma'am is the first to join in. So we'll just wait for another 2 minutes or so that everyone can join in. Right. I should ideally see all 21 teachers joining in, so it will be great if everyone joins in.
It says invalid.
Okay, can you refresh the page, ma'am, with the right code? Actually, I'll share it again in chat.
Fifth standard video, which you have taken, ma'am?
So we're looking, for example, we're looking at the video, which is why is the sky blue? So
Why sky blue? Okay,
yes.
okay.
So you have to go to another page itself, which is join.nearpod.com. Once you click on that link, which has already been shared in chat, please enter the code for it.
1 minute.
Yes. Okay, we're at 11 now. I'm going to wait for another 4 at least before we get started. take another minute. Okay, I see 12 teachers have joined in. Great. At least 3 more to go before I join in. So this way, Nearpod gives you a lot of insight into data. This will help you actually see if the students have joined in or not. Usually with videos, I know we use videos a lot in teaching, especially in the online context, but we're not sure whether students are watching the video when we share it with them. So this way it gives you a good tab of who's joining and who's not. So just another 2 more before we get started. All right. Okay, great. So because we're pressed for time, I'm just going to start. So when you logged in, teachers, or when you joined in with that code, it would have shown you eyes up on the screen, right? So when that notification comes up, you need to be looking at the teacher's screen, the screen that the teacher is sharing. So I'm just going to play the video. So I would request everyone to look up at the screen. Whatever activity is there, you will be able to access it from your devices. Whether it's a mobile or a laptop tab or a new tab on Windows, you will be able to access it. So I'm going to play the video now.
Why is the sky blue? It sounds like a question that's as old as
time, but it might not be that old at all.
Right, so you would have seen, as you can see on my screen, this is what it will be like when you use the video feature. So you will click on Start Activity, and again, you would have seen a prompt on your screen asking you if you know another word for blue. So the screen will load, it will give you a prompt. Great, I'm getting some responses. Some teachers have shared sky. There's another word for blue. Yes, sky, pen, okay. Water. Lovely, great. Cyan, great, great. Lovely responses coming in here. Neil. Okay, these are really good responses. Super. So this way, when there are different kind of interaction points that you have, so this is an example of an open-ended question, and if would request everyone to just look up at the screen for a bit. So if there's something that you really find fascinating and you want to share with the rest of the class as a response, you can click on share with the class. So the response will then be visible to all of you that the teacher has shared this student's response. So that's something that you can do. Also, you can turn on the student names option. So this will help you to see which student has answered what, if a student has not answered. So that is also something that is an insight for you. So that's totally up to you. Whether you would want to hide student name or show student names, right? So I'm going to play the video again.
When the Greek poet Homer wrote the Odyssey and the Iliad, he never once used a word for blue. From Greece to Africa to China, blue turns out to be one of the last colors that languages figure out a word for. For a long time, many people thought that the sky was blue for the same reason the ocean is blue. Air, like water, is only very faintly colored blue. So although a small amount appears colorless, an ocean, lake, or the sky naturally looks deep blue. Of course, those are both completely wrong, and the sky isn't even always blue, right? At the beginning and end of the day, it looks red or orange. So now we have two questions. Why is the sky blue, and also, why is the sky red? It turns out the sky is red because the sky is blue.
Right, so again, this dialog box will keep popping up, which tells you to start activity. You can simply apply to all activities and starting again. So a true or false question would have appeared on your screen. Great, I'm already getting some responses here. So once you've answered, you can check on the screen as a teacher what insights you're getting. As of now, it shows me that 30% of the class has gotten it right, and as more people keep answering, the numbers keep changing. You'll also know if there are students who have not answered.
I just wanted to know this, like the video you're sharing through your window, and then only the questions we answer. We don't see the video there, but on your screen, right?
Yes, ma'am. You need to see the video on the shared screen, and you need to answer the questions on the screen.
So the children respond on their whatever laptops or mobiles, and they like two windows need to be open, maybe.
Absolutely correct, ma'am. Yes. So you either use like a device, a phone, or you open another tab on the laptop.
Oh.
Right. So I'm just going to stop here and show you the insight. As you can see, so there are 50% of the students who've answered it correctly, and the incorrect percentage is also given. Those who have not answered is also here. So again, here is when you can see how many are actively engaging at that point.
And
so
we come to know also that who hasn't answered.
Absolutely, ma'am. As you can see on my screen, see that, and it says 21.4%.
But the names also will come to know, like
the names will show. Yes, ma'am. This option here that says show student names.
Okay.
So that's where it will show up. So it usually shows up for the open-ended questions. So right. So you would have understood whether your answer is correct or wrong. So I'm again going to proceed with playing the video here.
Let me show you why that is. Let's say it's 3 p.m. and you're on a beach in sunny California staring up at a blue sky. At 2:52 p.m., just 8 minutes before, a beam of light left the sun traveling to Earth at just under 300 million meters per second, carrying every wavelength from X-rays to radio waves on an 8-minute trip to Earth. Less than a millisecond before 3 p.m., high above you, that beam of light enters Earth's atmosphere. On its way through the atmosphere, that sunbeam will be trimmed down to just a narrow range of wavelengths. But that light still appears white, a mixture of all wavelengths. Here's where it gets cool. A physicist named John Strutt figured out that air molecules can actually scatter light as it travels through the atmosphere. It turns out that how much they scatter depends on 1/4 power of the wavelength. And what that means is that short wavelengths like blue and violet get scattered more than long wavelengths like red and orange. Some of those blues and violets scatter down into your eyes. They get mixed with some white light, and you end up seeing a color that looks a lot like this.
Right, so again, there is an activity that would have shown up on your screen, or a prompt. It's basically asking you to fill in the blanks here. So if all of you can just answer it. Yes, I see some of you have already started answering it. So it's like a live data collection that you are doing. Great. So we're getting a variety of answers. Some say more, some say less, some say about the same amount. All right. We also see that some have not answered, right? So again, that's something that you will know as to who's answering and who's not. Okay, super, great. All right. So I'm just going to share solution. The reason I'm doing it is so that you know what the experience will be like for your students. So you would have seen what the answer is, right? So it says that the answer is more, that the blue and violet wavelengths are scattered more than the red wavelengths. Just going to proceed to the last part of the video.
But wait, violet light has an even shorter wavelength than blue, so why isn't the sky violet? That's because the color receptors in your eyes have evolved to be more sensitive to blue than violet. By now it's 3:01, and while you're busy thinking about purple skies, your phone rings. It's your friend calling from the beach in Bermuda, watching the sunset 4 hours ahead of you. They're describing reds and oranges and even some yellows, and those colors are a result of the same science that makes the sky blue. When the sun is just above the horizon, the light in a sunrise or sunset has to travel through more atmosphere than at any other time. All that's left, all that doesn't get scattered, are the longest wavelengths, red, orange, and yellow. That blue that's missing, that's the blue that you see thousands of miles away. When they say, wish you were here, in a way, you are. You're each looking at different pieces of the same sunbeam.
So just one last prompt again, it's an open-ended question. What is one question you still have about why the sky has different colors? So if there's anything that you would want to add, you can add it out here, right? So if there's any questions, so again, such open-ended responses will help you understand what the students have gone away with or what they've understood. So this is the video feature of it. So if anyone attempts it, will be great, right? So is water not blue? All right, sure. Super, okay. How does it get the orange hue? Okay, all right. So super, super. Some great responses coming out here, right? So that's how we actually use this already existing video feature that is there, and it's actually quite insightful in terms of you understand whether your students are paying attention in class or not, and not just that, you understand if they're actually watching the video or not. So that's one feature that we explored here, and I'm going to be explaining another, which is the create option, right? So let's look at the create options that are there here. So you can create using the already existing Google Slides that is there, which is very similar to PPT. You can add activities in any video, and you can also create a lesson itself on Nearpod right from scratch. Or you can use an existing lesson, like I'm sure a lot of you teachers have been using PowerPoints previously, but a lot of you also message us saying that how do we make it more interactive? And I would say Nearpod is the answer to that, because they've got a lot of activities that you can add, right? So I'm giving you an example of how I have converted a pre-existing lesson, which is in PowerPoint, to an interactive one, right? So just going to run you through the steps for that, and would request all of you to just take note of the steps, because the next task that you're going to be engaging with has to do with this, right? So first thing that you will do is you will upload the lesson that is there. So this gives you an option of uploading files. So wherever your PPT is kept on a lesson, it could even be a PDF, a PNG, anything, upload it from that resource, and you have to click save. So that's something that you have to do. So because I've already done that previously, as all of you can see, my lesson on reproduction in plants for grade 7 is already uploaded here. Just a note, teachers, so usually we can edit in PPT, but once it is converted to Nearpod, you cannot edit the content or the text that is there on the slide itself, right? So it's going to be like an image. So once that is done, now I'm just going to give you a quick idea of what are the different kind of slides and activities that you can add. So you'll click on add slides option. So once you go to add slide, there are various options that you have, whether you want to add web content, whether you want to add, there's a BBC Worldwide video, there's a virtual tour trip. So anything that you would want to add, these are the options in content. So these features help you make it interactive. And activities, just like we saw in the video, where we had the open-ended question, or where we had the the multiple choice question one. So those are the features that will help you check for understanding throughout the lesson itself. So there are a lot of activities. There's time to climb, which is like a quiz in Kahoot, open-ended question where they can type in their responses. Matching pairs, where it's more helpful for elementary. There's quiz. There's Flipgrid, which we've taught earlier. Draw It is like the annotate feature that is there in Zoom. Some of you mentioned using whiteboard itself, right? Collaborate is like Padlet. Poll is for feedback. There's fill in the blanks, memory test. So many to just check that students are engaging, right? So let's look at an example of how I'm adding a content. So if you can see in this slide out here, I just want to show a video about Salumaruda Timmaka. So going to move on to the next one, how I added the video link, right? So I went to add slide as an option. I wanted to add the YouTube video link. So I went to web content, and let's say I want to add something about the video. So I paste the URL, the video link here, And once that's done, I'm just going to click on save. So the video is getting uploaded to the slide. Not, we don't have to always share it from YouTube directly. It's just been added here, as all of you can see, right? So it's been added, and you can test the link out here, and it will actually work. So that's something that you can do. So I give you an example of how to add a video online. And I have explained quite a bit here about the different types of reproduction in my presentation here, where there's asexual and there's sexual reproduction. And moving on to the next bit, where I've given them a prompt again because I want to make my class active. So I've asked them to draw the parts of the plant and label it, right? So how have I actually done that? So I've given them a prompt here that says draw the parts of the plant, label it, and write their functions. So students can actually, draw the, when I give you a preview, you'll understand better, right? So I've also set a timer if you want them to finish it off in some time. And again, you click save. So far, I've looked at adding a website link. We've used the Draw It feature to make it interactive. Another one that after you've taught some enough amount of content here, and you want to give them an open-ended question where I want to know whether they've understood the definition, let's say, of or the different types of asexual methods of reproduction. So I've given them questions here, and they have an option to answer it. All of this is happening live if you're teaching this live, right? So once that is done, we can also look at another option of just having a quiz with multiple choice questions. So that's something that I've done out here as well, where you can, again, all of these features, teachers, they have to be added from add slide. Whenever you want to test their understanding, you go to activities. So let's say I want to add a quiz question here. I can add a quiz question out here with my option. You can say your state true or false, or whatever option it is here, and you can give your options here as you give the statement there, obviously, and you add true or false here. You need to, let's say the statement is flower is a vegetative part of the plant. Is a vegetative part. We know the answer is false. You have to choose the correct answer from here, and then you can actually save it out here. So I'm just adding it for now. So that's again another feature that we've seen. And lastly, this is like a poll where you will add any feature that is there on the poll. I've asked them on a scale of 1 to 5, how much have I understood the chapter? 1, which says I need to learn it again, and 5 says I'm confident enough to answer any questions about it. So here is when the children will choose anything. We can also give them a point, an option to choose like multiple options, and that's how they can do it, right? So these are the different features, and I know this has been a little too much of information, but the more you try it, the better it gets. So we'll just take another 5 minutes. If we can just go back to the presentation itself. If the presentation can be shared, I'll just quickly run you through a task for the same on what is to be done, right? So we looked at the Neopod library, and we looked at creating a Neopod lesson. So here's the task where we take quick 5 minutes. Also, you don't have to complete it. It's just an experience and a practice for you. So choose a presentation of a lesson that you have previously taught, upload it. You know the create option there, so upload it there. Neopodize it, that is, you can add content and activities of your choice. Just to get you started, would request all of you to quickly get started on this, and we will be back in 5 minutes. There's no pressure to complete it. If you can, great. It can even be a 3-slide or a 4-slide presentation, as long as you get a hands-on with this. So we'll be back by 4:55.
I was just using it, trying to use it rather.
Okay.
When I took a video and while it played, it asked me that what activity to put. Okay. At what time. Okay. So I was getting two choices. One is that multiple choice questions and one was open-ended questions. How can I get, like you had that add slides, add PPT and add a link. Could you just share that again, because I lost it a little.
Sure, I'll just share screen. So I think you've opened the create the video tab that is there. So I'll show you which option it is that you have to access. So it's about creating a new lesson. So can you see my screen, ma'am? Is it visible?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yes, so create, it's the lessons option.
Okay, Acha, you had done, I did it on videos, I think.
Okay, right.
Create videos I did. Okay, when I do that lessons, then I'll be able to share activities and all these things.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try that too.
All of this, yeah.
Hi Abhilasha, Do here. So what I did was I had taken a grade 1 adjectives this thing, which I added in my library. Because I wanted to edit it, so what I did was I duplicated it.
Okay.
And then when you duplicate, you delete certain things which you don't want.
Okay.
And the rest, everything was there. So you can use it something like that as well, right? And then it can be a student based, it can be any which ways.
Absolutely, that's great. Yes, it can be student based also, teachers. Yes, please.
Yeah, and then a code was delivered. So, but you said upload. So where do I need to upload it again now then?
Okay, I'll just show it to you again how I reach the upload option. So if it's in your library, ma'am, you can directly teach it, share it at a student based or do a live session from there.
Okay.
But what I was teaching is the create option with Neopodize. So create lessons, and once I click on that, here is the upload option now. So upload.
Yeah, so it came. So when I did was it came. So so when I saved it in my library, the same window opened. Yes, upload files was also there. So upload file is something if I create my own PPT.
Right.
So, but right now I've taken it directly from the Nearpod library. So I'm using if the same thing I'm using, so I don't need to upload anything then.
No, you don't need to. So you got it from the library. There's no need to upload, ma'am.
So it was already there and it is in my library. And whenever I need to take a lesson, I can just straight away do from that. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how about, I mean, how many lessons can you do? Like in Kahoot and all, you can have only one group and you cannot have many this thing. So is there a way here also that a paid subscription or something like that?
Yes, ma'am. So usually these platforms, they have only a limited amount of features that you can use for free. So if everyone can just look at my screen for now. So I've added, I was just experimenting with this platform and I've tried, different features to it, and I keep adding it to my library. So once I try and add too many lessons to my library, because this is not a paid subscription, it will show that it's you can only store maximum of 100 MB data. So once you've taught a lesson and you've gotten the data from it, you can remove it from your library.
Right. So just like we do it in Kahoot. So you keep deleting and keep adding the new ones to work on it.
Absolutely correct, ma'am. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. All right. So
ma'am, if we are uploading a video and editing the video, can we download that video instead of playing it from this?
Right. So are you talking about in the create lessons option?
Yes, I have uploaded my PPT, let's say. I have edited my PPT. I have added some few activities and few things in it. Can I download that edited PPT in my laptop?
So that's something that it depends on how you are teaching it, ma'am. So if it is shared, there'll be an option of teaching it as a student-based learning. So this, for example, if you can just look at my screen here, right? So suppose I want to edit it and I'm doing the preview. Sorry, just a minute. So it'll give you an option if you want to teach it live, if you want to share it. So usually what happens in the student based option is it goes to the student's mailbox, and or you can even share it to anyone. You can even mail it to yourself and you can download it from there. So that's something that you can do.
Okay, okay. So because before deleting the data, you will be downloading it, no? Keeping it for yourself.
Yes, that's again a very great option of like actually maximizing what we have before we proceed
Yes.
to the others. Thanks for that idea, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes.
Abhilasha, can I ask you another question?
Go ahead, ma'am. Yes.
Do you think students also need to register this app, this Nearpod?
So when we signed up, we haven't explored the student bit of it, except for when the live session is going on and there's a video for the code. It's only for the code they need to be a part of it. Otherwise, they don't need to sign up for it.
So like you said in the beginning, you said you asked us to sign in. So we all have to sign in.
Yes.
I mean, students also need to sign in beforehand.
So students need not sign in, ma'am, for this.
Okay.
They will only, if suppose you're teaching a lesson live and you need to share a code, they just need to go to join.nearpod.com and enter the code. There's no need to have like a previous subscription or a membership.
Okay, thank you.
Could you just answer something? There are 3 options I get here once I've made a video: live participation, student based, and front of class.
Correct.
Okay. What is the what do I get in all 3 options? Like live participation is when both are giving me codes.
Yes, yes. Live participation is what we just did, ma'am. Student based is when you want them to watch a video and then come to class. And front of class is the interactive prompts, right? They will not be able to do it in their devices. They'll just have to answer it on screen.
Okay, so live participation is that what I can generally do, like the children are watching and answering, and they have that code which I send them on the mail.
Absolutely.
Or maybe copy and send it on WhatsApp or something, or.
Sure, or you can even share screen, ma'am, because when you start the video, the code will show on screen. So they can access it from there as well. All right. Great. Great to receive a lot of questions. Thank you so much for asking, ma'am.
And this expires in a month, I think. Whatever video you do, it says 29 days remaining for it expires.
This is student-based learning, right, ma'am? So it depends. Now, suppose you want a student to submit an assignment by Thursday, you can adjust the calendar and say that you want it by this day. So it is for that, yeah. Right. So if there are any other questions, you can redirect it to us, since we are slightly pressed for time. And I know Nearpod is a very vast and expansive platform. So do go ahead and experiment with it. You can make the most of it. It's very helpful, especially the library. So Shilpa is just going to proceed with the remaining part of the webinar.
Yes, so I think we'll just run through. I had a few energizers to talk about at the end of the session also, but since we're pressed for time, I'll just run through what these energizers look like. And on the WhatsApp group, might be each day I will share one energizer and how you can do it in your classes as well. So yes, this is something called Sports Gallery. So until now, we saw a few elementary kind of energizers also, and this is kind of something that you can use for higher grade kids also and for lower grade kids also. So what I do basically is I just call out a sports skill, and your students or you have to imitate what it is for 10 seconds at least. And as I keep moving on, I keep decreasing the time limit. So I change the sports skills faster and you have to do the actions faster. So yes, again, elementary kids, primary kids would absolutely love doing this. So yeah, that is one thing to get them flexed up, all active, get them to move their muscles. Yes, you can try this out. Again, like I said, we won't be doing it right now, but you can always try it out with your kids. I'll be sharing screenshots of these during the next few days. One by one, each day, one energizer is something that I'm planning to share. So yes, the last one is a very interesting way. So some of the classes that I have, so we do Piyushala classes for kids also. So from different schools as well. So what I used to see in one of the schools is the kids get a chance to share songs that they like. So kids really like to show what they're interested in. They really like to express themselves in ways like these. So this is one thing that you can surely try it out for higher grade kids. Not really sure if the younger kids would be able to do this, but this is called Keyword Sing Roulette. So I'm going to be showing what basically we would do is we would show a word on the screen. If possible, try to relate it with a topic that you're teaching in the class itself. And in teams or just kids individually also, they take that word and they try to find a song that has that particular word in it, right? So from their knowledge of songs, they try to find the word, a song in which that particular word is being used. And the first person or the first team to find out the song with the word in it is going to be able to share the song with the entire class. So this is kind of a very a way for them to, so how this particular activity would help the kids a lot is, so this is one of the techniques to remember and recall better, right? So if there is some complicated word that you're teaching them, some complicated expression that you're teaching them, it's always, it happens that they might forget what they're learning about, or they might forget that particular keyword. By relating it to something that they already know about, it gets firmly fixed into their memory, right? So this is a very, very useful remember, recall method that you can use. Try to get the kids to associate complicated words, complex expressions with something that they already know about. So yeah, this is kind of helps in building their memory, also in helping them remember and recall much better by associating something that they already know about, and also a fun way for them to express themselves, right? A quick recap on the different energizers that we saw here. The first one that we saw was about yes, no, stand up. Ask a few yes and no questions and get them to do an action instead of verbally telling the response. So yes, no, stand up, sit down. What's in the box? Again, get them to identify a particular item that you've hidden or you want them to guess by getting them to ask yes or no questions, in response to which they identify the actual item. Blind artist, a very, very interesting way to build communication among kids, to encourage two-way participation, two-way communication among the kids. Also to stress on the kind of instructions, the staggering of instructions that are being given to each other. So blind artist, again, a very, very useful way to build all of these. Red nose, pink toe, something your elementary kids would surely love doing and also learn in the process. Purpukut, again, one of the very, very interesting activities. You can, like I said, make your own variations of these energizers. Sports gallery, where they mimic a certain sport action. For example, you can say stand up and act like you're doing a long jump, right? Or you say you are hitting a sixer, you're a batsman, and or you can just say serving in a badminton match, right? So you can use those. And keyword sing roulette is something again that we saw where you can get kids to associate complicated words with songs or something that they're familiar with. A great activity to engage them and get them to learn at the same time. So yes, that is what we had for today. I hope you get to explore Neopod a little bit more and try out a few of these energizers that we spoke about today.